moving on to current topics at this current.
There are always current topics with Afghanistan.
Yeah. What is going on right now? Major developments in Afghanistan. So last week we had the assassination of one of the most prominent imams in Afghanistan, in Kabul, someone who was on national television every week. Imam Ayaz Niazi, who is a major scholar, very accomplished person. He was assassinated in Wazir Akbar Khan in an area which is very secure. It is basically inside the Kabul green zone, where the elite of Afghanistan, where they live, they have their mansions. In that area is a very important masjid, Wazir Akbar Khan, where the Wazir Akbar Khan Masjid, where he was the imam, and he was assassinated inside the masjid. There was outrage in the entire country. People went to the streets. They were protesting about. They were calling the government for the fact that the government failed to provide security for him. But then we had another assassination, another very influential figure, Azizullah Mufleh, another imam, the imam of Shershai Suri Masjid. He was also assassinated inside the masjid. So within a span of few days, two of the most significant and major masajid in Kabul, the imams are assassinated inside the masjid. And what's so important about this development is that both of these imams were people who were appointed by the government. They were inside the city, inside Kabul, in very significant, very important masajid, attended by very famous people. Like a lot of important figures, when they die, their Fatiha is in Shershai Suri Masjid.
I think Imran Feroz tweeted as well that his uncle Wahid Mujda's Fatiha was in Masjid Shershai Suri.
Yeah, and so these two imams, they're assassinated, and what's so important about this particular development is that this is not something new and unusual. In the last few years, I was watching Kabul News. It's an Afghan news station, and during their report, they were saying that there was a person who was a member of Afghanistan's religious scholars Shura, and he said that in the last few years, 450 scholars and imams were assassinated. 450. Most of them from like people who are very highly educated, very popular and respected scholars. They were assassinated. No assassin was arrested. Nobody is prosecuted. And in most cases, nobody even claimed responsibility. Like in Ayaz Niazi's case, Daesh claimed responsibility. But in most of these cases, nobody claimed responsibility. And
I was just gonna say that I think there's the tendency of these attacks to focus on religious ulama is quite disturbing. Now, and I think one of the major parts of the problem is also the attitude that you find reflected in many supporters of the government. So a lot of these people will view the ulama, the clergy, to be people worthy of being worthy of suspicion. But what a lot of people are missing out is that these, especially in the case of people like Mawlawi Saib Niazi, or even Mawlawi Saib Mufleh, what these people are missing out is that whether we like it or not, these people enjoy a higher level of trust than the government does.
Certainly.
Simple. That is.
Without a doubt.
So these are people to whom the common people, the governed, look up to. They trust them more, simply because the government, which claims to obviously govern, has failed them. So these people are very important interlocutors in society they serve a major role in serving as channels between the government and the governed. They serve a major role in society. In a highly religious conservative society like Afghanistan, people really look up to these ulama, and they're being gunned down or bombed or whatever all across the country, not just in Afghanistan. And the second point is that many times in Afghanistan, you'll often hear that if there's a campaign to build a masjid, right, let's say in rural Afghanistan, a lot of people will say something like, oh, why not build schools instead? Well, for a lot of kids in rural areas, the masjid is the only form of education they get. It is where they actually learn how to read and write. Okay, and it doesn't rely on a government body to issue curriculums every couple of years. These masajid actually serve as places where people gain literacy. And in a country like Afghanistan, and I think in one of my articles I quoted the World Bank saying that literacy amongst the general population is at 43%. These ulama are the creme de la creme. They're the highest in terms of literacy and education. So these are people that have access to and try to benefit society with the privilege that they have got with regard to their education, and they're being killed, and no one is asking how in Afghanistan's, in Kabul's green zone, this country's senior cleric can just be killed like this. If I just put this into context for people in Britain, right?
Yeah.
Can we imagine what would happen if the Bishop of Canterbury was blown up in Sunday Mass? Like, seriously. Yeah. Just try to visualize it like that.
And that guy is not even popular.
And he's not even popular. He has no... he has because in Britain, we've got the Queen as the defender of the faith, the head of the Church of England. The Church of England is the established religion of the state, but religiosity is something like 5% of people attend church on Sundays. That being said, if we picture the head of the Bishop of Canterbury getting blown up like this, there would be outrage on the streets, not least directed toward the government. And this is important because obviously there is anger towards the government for failing to ensure Mawlawi Saib Niyaz's security, but there are actually people blaming the government, right? Saying that the government actually orchestrated this. And like I said in the podcast with Muazzam Big, this shows the massive deficit of trust that the government in Kabul has with its citizenry.
Speaking of the government's role, after the assassination of Ayaz Niyazeh, during his funeral processions, one of the clerics who spoke out was a senior Imam scholar, and he said that the people who are responsible for his assassination are people who are in government. He wasn't being specific, but he spoke out, and the video was, by the way, aired by Kabul News. I'm going to upload that excerpt later on Twitter, and I'll try to add subtitles. That was a very significant matter that needs to be exposed. People in Afghanistan, in Kabul, they have the sense that government is behind these attacks. Then
we saw it, for example, with the attack on the maternity ward, with the MSF maternity ward in West Kabul. People were outrightly blaming the government for it.
Yeah, but now we have something very, very clear. Like this is really fresh. I was watching the report on assassination of Mawlawi Azizullah Mufleh, and the people in Shirshah Suri Masjid, the Muqtadis, the people who pray there always, they spoke to the media, the local media in Kabul, and they said a day before the assassination, the security apparatus from the government came to Shirshah Suri Masjid. They vacated the premises. They told everybody to leave because we are going to research and investigate this building. Then when they left, the next day a bomb exploded where the imams stands inside the masjid. Okay?
At the pulpit.
At the pulpit, yes. So the people in Kabul, the people who attend this masjid every day, they say, how is it possible that the security apparatus in Kabul comes to inspect this building and the exact next day there is an attack? If you don't have to be a aluminium hat wearing conspiracy theorist to add one
You've
plus
Sven,
one.
I had no idea about the aluminium hats, but
Yeah, but you don't have to be a subscriber to Alex Jones to say, okay, there is something obviously wrong here. How is it
or
possible?
believe that Hillary Clinton is a shape-shifting reptile.
Yeah, but the thing is that this is an issue that needs to be addressed. Somebody needs to go and ask the government in Afghanistan, why are you not providing security for these people? If you want to go to
That's the
Taimani,
thing. That's
you
the
know,
thing is that if you know, I mean, because with things like this, like there's a lot of circumstantial evidence and whatever. So I mean, obviously, I acknowledge that I don't really have all of the facts here. Okay, I don't have access to the intelligence and the research and whatever. But at the very least, okay, why are we not seeing a major overhaul in how these security agencies are run? Because quite clearly they're failing at their job. If they're going in inspecting buildings the day before an explosion goes off, well, there's a problem. Who's responsible for this? What measures will be taken to address this? You know, we only hear condemnations and something vague about terrorism and all of that good stuff. There's no actual, as we would say, there's no swallow jawab. No?
Yeah, and see, the thing is, current president Ashraf Ghani has an entire cabinet of acting ministers. Acting minister of education, acting minister of economy, acting minister of that. All these acting ministers are being changed every 2 or 3 weeks. Most of these ministers are not approved by the Afghan parliament. This musical chairs dance of ministers is going on for years now, but the security situation is not improving in Kabul. My cousin was stabbed a few days ago in Kabul because people wanted to have his mobile phone. He's a small kid, he's 18 years old, and they stabbed him for his mobile phone. My other cousin who lives in Khair Khana, he's a student, young kid, he was stabbed a few months ago. And this kind of insecurity, this kind of state of chaos and corruption is the order of the day in Kabul. The government isn't doing anything to change the circumstances. The security is deteriorating as we speak every day. Things are getting worse, and then we have to make things even worse, we have these assassinations, these chain of assassinations of imams. So people are wondering what is going on. Why is nothing being done to at least provide security in Kabul? Okay, maybe the people are upset when we say Kabul administration because they say this is a Taliban terminology. Don't say Kabul administration. Okay, let's not say Kabul administration. Administration of the green zone, because even outside even in the green zone in Kabul, in Wazir Akbar Khan, in an imam is not safe. Nobody's safe. So
I think some people, someone raised that issue with me because in my articles I will refer to, you know, in popular English we'll say Moscow said this, or London, Westminster said this, the Kremlin said this.
Yeah.
And one person raised this with me saying, "Oh, you're echoing Taliban terminology," and I was like, "Nah, you've misunderstood completely." But yeah, I agree with you. You know, the popular, Hamid Karzai in his time as president was very rudely described as the mayor of Kabul.
Yeah.
And Ashraf Ghani is also similarly derided as the mayor of Kabul. But if that is assuming that their authority, you know, is established in Kabul, that's a claim that's being made, but I'm not even seeing evidence for that because, you know, the country's senior most religious clerics are being bombed in the most high-profile masajid in the country. You've got you've got people like Wahid Mujda, seasoned political analysts, being gunned down in broad daylight. No accountability, no questions being asked, business as usual. Every couple of days or weeks, someone is being killed, or you've got crime, you've got criminal gangs. It's the situation. We speak about the Kabul is safe from the Taliban. Okay, sure, but is it safe from criminal gangs? I don't think so.
Yeah, and a point I tried to make earlier, if you want to go to nightclubs in Kabul, because there are many nightclubs that are built in Kabul, in Taimani, in different areas, especially for foreign the expats, these journalists and people who work for NGOs and whatnot. If you want to go there, those nightclubs, they're built in a certain way that there are these huge blast walls around them. There are security guards around those nightclubs with fully automatic machine guns, with bulletproof vests. And if you want to go there, they will check your passport and they will search you. They have metal detectors so that all these foreigners, they can go and enjoy themselves and have a blast. But for normal people in Kabul, there is no security. There is no safety, and even if they want to go to places of worship, in Islam we have a law: you do not attack the places of worship of other people, so non-Muslims. If there is a war, as a Muslim, you're not allowed to attack their places of worship. But here in a Muslim country, all places of worship are not safe. And the government isn't
Sikh
doing
places
anything.
of worship, Sikh temples as well.
The Sikh temple was attacked. We don't have, we have Sikhs in Afghanistan. We have just one Jew, see, it's insane that people expect so much credit. They're so sensitive against criticism. When we say something critical about the government, about these politicians, about the media, people are upset and they send us all sorts of nasty comments. Why are you saying this? But what do you expect if you have a dysfunctional state, if you have a dysfunctional government, when people are not safe? What do you expect? Praise? Should we praise them?
I just want to bring the example here. If any of the viewers are not British and they're going to roll their eyes again, they're going to be like, he's going to talk about the UK again. But here we go. I just want to use this as a case in point, right? So there's the coronavirus and there's a lockdown. Now the Prime Minister's senior advisor in Britain is called Dominic Cummings. And Dominic Cummings, for whatever reason, he drove something like, God knows, it was a couple of 100 miles or kilometers to his parents' estate because he wanted to self-isolate and wanted someone to look after his child. Now, Dominic Cummings, obviously he was criticized and this issue was politicized, and he was absolutely hounded by the media to the extent that he gave a press conference explaining why, as the Prime Minister's advisor, he drove so many miles whilst he and his wife were exhibiting symptoms. Right? Now we compare that to Afghanistan. Okay? Over here in the UK, there is a nation, the Prime Minister's advisor driving a couple of 100 miles, endangering potentially people along the way because he was suffering from COVID-19. This is cause for a national scandal. And it felt like a national scandal, okay? In Afghanistan, what we have is a government, and the question actually that was being asked of Dominic Cummings is there one rule for you and another rule for the rest of people in Britain? Okay, now in Afghanistan, I want to pose the same question: are the lives of foreign diplomats, foreign security contractors, journalists, people that like to party and go to nightclubs, are their lives more important than people going to Masjid Shah Suri to pray? are their lives more important than someone like Mawlawi Saib Niyazi or Mawlawi Saib Mufleh? Are their lives more important than the hundreds, if not thousands, of faithful attending to gather at the one place of solace that they have left in their city after 40 years of war? That's a question that I want a genuine answer to, which I don't think I'll actually get a genuine answer for, by the way. It's not a rhetorical question that I'm asking, but I guess it will come across as rhetorical because it's not something someone can answer. Why are Afghan lives, why is Afghan blood so cheap?